Hi, everyone. Welcome to Unchained, your no-hype resource for all things crypto. I'm your host, Laura Shin. Today's episode is brought to you by Binance. Binance is the world's #1 crypto exchange, trusted by over 290 million users. With industry-leading liquidity, security, and a wide range of digital asset products, Binance is the place to buy, sell, trade, and earn crypto. Download Binance today to get started. My first guest is James Craig, founder, director, and producer at Encrypted Films, and he's here to talk about his new movie, Code is Law. Welcome, James.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me, Laura. It's great to be here.
Yeah, so you just released your new film, Code is Law, and it was great. It was pretty riveting, and it's interesting because even though I was very familiar with at least one of the stories, I just found myself on the edge of my seat. So just tell me, about the film, how you came to do it, how you got the idea, and what all is in there.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I'll give you a quick rundown of what the film's about. So it's a feature length documentary. It's really about the smart contract exploits that have shaped the code is law philosophy. So right from the way it was when it was first a meme to what it is now, essentially a courtroom defense. So it takes you inside some of the really well known smart contract exploits like the DAO, Index Finance, KyberSwap, Mango Markets. And it tells you the story of the developers, the investigators, and the victims that are at the heart of those cases. And then at the center of the film is this teenage hacker, Andean Medjedovic, who was responsible for $65 million worth of hacks and has been on the run from the FBI now for a while. So we
And
and yes, sir.
oh, go ahead.
No, I was just in terms of how we came to the story. So we'd me and my co-director Louis Giles. There's two directors on this project, Louis as well, who's not here. And we came across we were looking for stories to make independently, and he was at ETC a couple of years ago and spoke to the founder of Euler Finance, Michael Bentley, just after they'd been hacked. They'd been hacked for I think $200 million, and Louis mentioned the story, and we were both amazed by the fact that kind of nobody in the mainstream press even knew about this, and the numbers are insane. And then I went on to Rect and saw the list of DeFi hacks with all these crazy figures and numbers, and I was like, wow, we have to make a story about this. So that's how we got interested, and then through the work of people like yourself, we came to understand what the DAO hack was and kind of understand about the code is law idea, and that's really the genesis of where the whole thing came from.
And was there any particular message that you wanted to get across with the movie?
No, I think actually the opposite, in a sense that we really wanted to try and not make it a kind of polemical film that was strongly putting forward one view or another. I think like I had a massive amount of sympathy and understanding for the people that were at the heart of the story. So the founders who had actually been through these hacks and been at the center of things while kind of millions of dollars of people's money were being threat. I had a lot of sympathy for those people, but I didn't want the film to kind of be a coders law or an anti-coders law film. We wanted to try and walk the line of kind of just bringing forward the debate without taking a strong stance either way.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I get that, also as somebody who does this type of thing as well. But yeah, through watching it, my feeling was it's titled Code is Law, but the message is that it's not law. That's my
Yeah,
personal takeaway.
yeah, I think the fact that, I mean, I would have loved if we could have got one of the hackers to actually be in the film giving the opposite point of view. It's actually surprisingly hard, as you probably know yourself, to find people who put forward the opposite point of view. And I think that's slightly changed over the course of making the movie. So I've started work on this maybe 2.5 years ago, and at that point it seemed to be the complete consensus that like this idea is just a meme that was kind of quite prominent some years back, but now as the industry has progressed and matured, it's kind of been put into the past. But I think, especially with the Eisenberg case and what's happened around that, there's more of a sense that actually maybe the idea holds water and has some relevance to real life now. So I think, it may be easier nowadays actually to find people willing to put forward the opposite view.
Yeah, and you're talking about the Avi Eisenberg case, Mango Markets, where he manipulated or allegedly manipulated the price of a token to do like an economic exploit. Well, so as you mentioned, you go in depth on a few major hacks: the DAO, Index Finance, KyberSwap, and Euler. How did you choose these? Like, why did they make the cut out of the many that you could have chosen from?
Totally. So the really, I think the process started mainly with Index Finance, because when I when we came across that story, and there was this hacker that had very publicly kind of made the case for Coder's law. So Medjedovic was one of the few who had been actually publicly identified and had stated, not in as many words, but kind of said, what I did was within the rules of the smart contract. I should be allowed to keep the assets that I've stolen. That was the start of it. But then as we started to look into cases to bring out, and we started to research this Coder's law idea and understand better where it came from, that's when we started really delving into the DAO, and we kind of felt like, okay, to explain to viewers where this idea actually came from and tell the whole story so that viewers really understand, we need to tell that story as well. And then it was while we were making the film then, so like I said, we started shooting kind of late in 2023. About 3 months into filming was when the KyberSwap hack happened. So we didn't initially know for certain that it was Medjedovic that had hacked KyberSwap. We kind of, there were suspicions at the outset, and there were people that telling us that it could well be him. But it wasn't until we were further down the line that we were like, okay, we definitely have to tell this story as well, because it seems like he definitely hacked KyberSwap as well.
Yeah, and actually, before you go on with that, so just explain a little bit more about who Andean Medjedovic is, and yeah.
Yeah. So Andean Medjedovic is a kid who hacked Index Finance back in 2021. So he was 18 years old at the time, and it was an exploit that resulted in about $16 million worth of assets being taken. Like I say, he actually doxed himself. So the Index Finance team did an investigation, managed to unearth who he was, identified him publicly. So he justified what he did. He kind of started the process of trying to legally defend himself, but then disappeared, went on the run from justice, as this is back at the end of 2021.
Yeah, and by the way, that bit about how they identified him was kind of hilarious in my opinion. He had used a very specific username that they tracked down to a Wikipedia page, and then that username had only made one edit or something, and it was to add himself as one of the notable graduates of a high school, and he named himself, what was it, notable mathematician or something like that.
That's exactly right. Yeah, it was the notable alumni of this high school trivia contest called Reach for the Top. So it was pure kind of ego silliness that ended up in him getting caught. It is kind of hilarious. And so he was publicly known, but then he'd been on the run for a couple of years. He actually lost that money. So he hacked Index Finance. He had $16 million. Then he used the profanity tool. It's a tool that you can use to change for a vanity wallet address. So he used it to have a specified wallet address. Because he used that tool, there was a flaw in that. There was a vulnerability in that tool. So he ended up losing all the money he'd hacked from Index Finance. So he lost the money, and then a couple of years after this, while he was on the run, he then did another much larger hack, 3 times as big, from KyberSwap. So stole $48 million. He's admitted to the indexed hack. He's never admitted to the KyberSwap hack, but he was charged for both back in February of this year by the FBI.
And so, explain kind of the status of that case, or both those cases.
Yeah. So as of now, he is still. So the FBI charged him in February. So he's wanted by the FBI in connection with those cases. There's several charges outstanding against him, but they haven't arrested him yet. So either they don't know where he is. He may be in a country where that has no extradition agreement with the US, or they just may simply not know where he is. So as it stands, he's been on the run now for 4 years from some civil charges in Canada, which he initially faced in relation to the Index Finance case, and for over 8 months from the FBI in relation to federal charges for both cases.
Yeah, and I found it interesting. You all, or I don't know who it was. I guess maybe the hacker team went and, or somebody went, or not the hacker team. Sorry, the Index Finance team went and talked to his parents, and they discovered at the family home that he had left. But the parents, they seemed kind of okay with that.
Not loads and loads is known about what the parents say. I think that, as far as I know, his mum hasn't ever spoken up, but his dad, there is a little bit of in the case files related to the civil case. There were some details of a voicemail that was left by the dad, by Andean's dad, for the Index Finance legal team. And I think the phrase he used was that there was a hole in the contract that he'd been used. So the dad, essentially, in as many words, made the Coder's law defense for his son when the Index Finance legal team contacted him to try and resolve the case. And yeah, as you say, when the court actually dispatched officers to Andean's parents' house to try and either arrest him or recover his devices so that they could try and recover the assets, Andean had been on the run, and he's been on the run ever since.
All right. So, in a moment, we're going to talk a little bit more about these various hacks and what James uncovered with his film. But first, we're going to take a quick word from the sponsors to make this show possible. Binance is the world's #1 crypto exchange, trusted by over 290 million users globally. With world-class liquidity, security, and a wide portfolio of digital asset products, Binance makes crypto easy for everyone. Whether you're new to crypto or a professional, Binance offers a simple user experience. Learn with Binance Academy, browse hundreds of tokens, and track your portfolio on an easy-to-use dashboard. For experienced users, Binance Pro provides industry-leading services and bespoke trading products. With some of the lowest fees and deepest liquidity in the market, it's no wonder over 290 million users choose Binance for everything crypto. Buy, sell, trade, earn, live crypto. Download Binance today and begin your journey into the future of finance. Disclaimer: Binance is not available in certain countries, including the US. Check its terms for more information. Binance.com/en/terms. Back to my conversation with James. So, as you mentioned earlier, also, it starts with the DAO, which is a hack that I'm very familiar with. I honestly, the movie for me was a little bit of a nostalgia tour because I know Griff and Lefteris and Christoph and all those guys affiliated with the DAO hack, or not affiliated, I should say, who lived through the DAO hack. I know them quite well. Talk a little bit about that particular hack and why you chose to start with that one.
Yeah, I think the DAO hack was so fascinating because not just because of how new everything was at that stage and how. So what was really interesting talking to those guys compared to a lot of the people in DeFi that I spoke to was just how kind of idealistic they were. They had this amazing kind of belief in the technology and in Ethereum, and I think the DAO hack was such an interesting story because it was a kind of distortion, a perversion of that whole idea. So it was this beautiful moment with this fundraise where I think at the time it was the record fundraise, the record crowdfund of all time. They raised $160 million, was it, for investment in the DAO. And then there's this terrible hack that happens, and then what it reveals is that there's this paradox at the heart of the technology, which is that you would expect maybe the community members, the investors who lost money when a huge amount of money has been taken by this hacker, for there to be this kind of universal, well, we need to get it back. What the hacker's done is wrong. But that's not what happened at all. Is that there's this huge schism in this community, with actually many people saying, well, no, it shouldn't even be called a hack. It's just a feature of the code. This person just used the code as it was written. This is really what this technology means. This is the whole ethos behind this technology, is that we shouldn't be calling this person a hacker. So I think that was the kind of moment. I know that the code is law didn't originate in that moment, but it was the first moment where it kind of came into conflict with the reality of like what it actually means when a hack happens. That there's these two competing voices that really can't be resolved, that are right at the heart of the kind of philosophy of crypto.
Yeah, I mean, that story was also fascinating to me because you ended that portion in the film, and then we move on to these other hacks. And what was interesting was then I realized, oh, actually, what happens, years later is people are still calling Lefteris and asking him for help when they get hacked. So talk a little bit about that. Like, why do you think that's happening? Like, how does he feel about it?
Yeah, actually, Lefteris was one of the really key parts in tying this all together. I think because that was one of the real challenges in the movie, was especially for viewers who aren't familiar with crypto, was explaining the link between these cases. And I think the one of my favorite bits from it, and one of the favorite lines we got while we were filming, was when Lefteris talks about how it was like a ghost of the past re-emerging when he was investigating the index finance hack, because he thought this idea that was dead and buried, this idea of code as law, which it was a huge part of his life. I think it was trying to take this down or fight against this idea when the DAO hack had happened. And then when the index hack had happened, and Laura Shin, who's the one of the members of the index finance team, who's very prominent in the film, had asked Lefteris to get involved. Like Lefteris says in the film, it was a huge personal thing for him to try and defeat this ghost from the past that had come up again. So yeah, I think that's I don't know whether Lefteris is still pulled into forums as much as he was at the time, but I know that in that case, like I say, he was determined to help and do whatever he could, because he wanted to fight against the voices in the community that were saying that it's justified.
Yeah. Something else that was interesting was, so Andean Medjedovic had not only like been in contact with the index finance team, but he actually seemed to be like a contractor for them. And then, at least in my book, when I uncovered who I believe was the DAO hacker, Toby Honish, he had also reached out to the Slockit group. So why do you think it is that these are people who actually have had personal contact with these groups that they end up, whose smart contracts they end up hacking?
Yeah, I've thought a lot about this as regards Andean, because I think there's two possibilities that kind of fit with his character. I think one of the possibilities, I think, is simply that that he'd spotted that there was a potential vulnerability, or he believed that there was a way in which he could exploit index finance, and he was in contact with the team as a way of trying to kind of test the theory. He was trying to have a closer look at the code. He was trying to kind of see if there were other backdoors that he could use to basically improve his chances of successfully exploiting the protocol. I think that's one of the reasons it may have been. I think another possibility, given what we know about Andean's character, is that it may have been slightly more perverse than that. It may have been more of a power thing and a control thing, of getting close to the people that he knew that he was about to defeat in this kind of this digital battle, which I think is really how he sees it. Because I mean, this is the thing with Andean, is that he could well have done this hack and made a good attempt to just disappear just like a phantom, as Lawrence puts it in the film, which most other DeFi hackers do. But I don't think that's how he's built. I think that he wants the spotlight when he does one of these hacks, in spite of the fact that it's cost him an awful lot at this stage. And it's the same with what we see with the KyberSwap hack, is that he definitely, with that one, he'd given himself away with the index finance hack because of this Wikipedia entry that you spoke about. But with the KyberSwap hack, he definitely could have. I mean, there was no reason for anybody to know that it was Andean that had done this second hack, but he left breadcrumbs, just as he did with the index finance one.
Yeah. Help me if I am misremembering it, but essentially what he did was he left an address that was the same address, in relation to the KyberSwap hack. He left an address that was the same address that he had used to request payment as a contractor for indexed finance.
So that was so basically what he'd done with the we're getting the two parts mixed up there slightly. With the KyberSwap one, what he'd done is that he'd hacked the KyberSwap, and money had landed in this wallet that was a different wallet, completely not associated with the index finance hack in any way. And then he decided to send $2 million worth of assets from the wallet that contained the stolen KyberSwap funds over to one of the wallets that had been used to steal funds from the index finance protocol. So essentially, he made this public signal that it could be the same person. And I think the thing was, at the time when this happened, my reaction was, it can't possibly be him. It must be somebody trying to frame him and make it seem as if it's him, because nobody could be that arrogant to be sending out a message that he'd done this huge, essentially a very serious federal crime. But he was publicly putting it in the spotlight. I think he wanted the acknowledgement from the community that he'd done it.
Wow. Well, so now you have this movie out there. First of all, tell people where they can see it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so it's on Amazon, Apple, YouTube, and Vimeo. So it's only in selected territories, including the United States, on Amazon. But anybody in the world can watch it through Vimeo on demand, and lots of countries. I think around 70 countries can watch it on Apple TV as well.
Great. And are you working on anything else yet? Maybe it's too early, or do you have your eye on anything?
I do. Yeah, I do. It's still early days, but there's several projects that I'm working on at the moment. I'm looking into. I've got a ongoing film I'm developing about North Korean IT workers that I'm working on, and I'm also doing some work on the case of the three teenagers who did the heist last year, where they stole $250 million worth of Bitcoin. So it's one of I think the largest theft from a single person. So there's a couple of stories that I'm working on at the moment.
Okay, great. Well, it's been such a pleasure learning about you and your film, and everybody should go see this because it's riveting. And if you're into crypto, you'll find it fascinating. So thank you so much, James.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you for your time.